Hey, g'day. Today I'm going to be tumbling up some Breccia. So Breccia is, this is Breccia. So it's broken up bits of Chert and Jasper that over time have been melded back into the one rock, and we call it Breccia. So yes, basically Chert and Jasper. So what I'm doing now is that's the normal stuff that I would normally tumble, but I have picked up a few bits of quite different looking stuff, similar but different, from when we're in meteor recently. I tried to find as many pieces as I could out of my collection to tumble up today. So hang around and we'll fire up the saw and tumble polish some Breccia.
Thanks for tuning into my YouTube channel. I make videos on all things rock related, from collecting to cutting and polishing, along with helpful hints. If you enjoy my videos, please consider subscribing, as well as liking, sharing and commenting to help me build my channel. Thank you.
So this is the type of stuff I'm talking about. I don't know if you can see how different it is, but it has these black sections and very dark burgundy sections as well. And the matrix that it in isn't as pink as the other one. I'll show you what I mean. So this is a piece of what I would normally do, and you can see it has a pink background, and the rocks are pink as well. Whereas what I'm doing, mainly this one here, so I hope you can see the difference in colours. So I'll quickly just run through what I'm doing. This is one, and these are from meteor, whereas the other ones, these more pinkish ones, are from Payne's Find. So about 300 or 400 kilometers apart. This is a pink one. This is a white one. I don't know where this came from. Picked up along the way. There's some little pieces. There's some big pieces. So these will all get cut up into bite-sized pieces. This has black bits in it. Rounded off, and then tumble polished. I'll probably go into a bit more detail with this video than I normally would. That nice black bit there, because I've been sort of skipping through recently some of the videos. People go, well, how come the vibe tumbler's full of water there at the end of the video? Well, that's something I've been missing. But you'll see as we go along. More Breccia. 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 Now I'm also going to be doing some odd bits and pieces of Jasper. That's Breccia. And I'll show you what I'm doing. There's this one here that I just cut yesterday. This is zebra quartz, I think they call that. It's a Jasper, so it should tumble well with the others. What else we got? This one here. This is from Payne's Find, the Jasper dump. Can't see it here, but it looks very clearly. But when it's wet, it looks like pyramids, or like a landscape. What else am I doing? Well, there's the other piece of the zebra quartz. There's a piece of the nice black Breccia. Also doing some, again, you can't see it very well here. Let me see if I can wet it with what's sort of. This is a piece of picture Jasper I cut yesterday. That'll go in the mix as well. And this here, banded Jasper with a nice bit of quartz running through it. It'll get rounded off as well. Well, that's in there. It'll get rounded off. And then lastly, this one here, which was cut yesterday as well. Nice banded Jasper with a vein of quartz as well. So yeah, I'll fire up the saw, cut all these up, and then we'll start the rounding process. Mind you, it'll all be on this one video for you to view at the end. See you then. Now these are the rocks I'm going to be cutting. Some have already been cut in half, that picture Jasper there, and also the bit of zebra quartz. But the rest of them will all be cut into smaller bite-sized pieces and rounded off. Now, safety is a big thing when you're cutting rocks. I wear a belt that holds my back, because stooping over the rock saw for hours really, you get an aching back. Well, I do at my age. I also have a waterproof apron just for comfort. But this here, this is the most essential. You need a respirator mask if you're going to be cutting rocks. No matter you're outside, whatever, you need a respirator mask. If you don't have a respirator mask, the dust that comes off the rocks when you cut them can cause silicosis in your lungs, and believe me, that's something you don't want. Ear protection is a must as well. That rock saw gets pretty loud, as well as eye protection. Now, I have a bit of polycarbonate there, and that stops any rocks from flicking out. So this is the rock saw. It has a 9-inch blade, but the shaft of the blade is really close to the top there, the cutting surface. I end up with a good almost 4 inches of cutting. There's a 1/4 horsepower engine that runs it, and then I have a fan blowing on that engine, on that motor, just to keep him cool, because I really push those rocks through and it heats up if I'm not careful. It has a recirculating water system, so you can see there the water dripping down. It goes down into this big reservoir underneath, and in there is a submersible pump which pumps that water up that pipe there. I have these things here just to stop too much splashing, even though it's still everywhere gets wet. And then around this side you can see where the hose comes up from that submersible pump into this reservoir here. Now inside here, let me show you. See, the water is continually pumped onto the blade as it cuts, just to keep the dust down and to keep it cool as well as that the blade actually sits in the water once it's running. So that's it, that's the cutting setup. And this is what I do. These are a couple of kitty litter trays full of rocks. So these ones here to be cut, let me just put him aside. He goes there. So I grab a rock like this one, I dunk it in the water to see what sort of patterns and lines and stuff to maximize the cut that I'm going to do. I run it through there, and then the cut pieces go into here. So that ends up empty, that ends up full, if everything goes to plan. Okay, so it's time to start cutting. I'll grab a fairly large one, and like I say, I really force these rocks through. It means that the blade doesn't last as long, but you get things done a lot quicker. So this rock here, I will speed it up, but it actually took, I think, about 40 seconds to get through, which is quite quick considering how tough Jasper is. Yeah, so that was 40 seconds in real time. Quite a nice cut. Now the other half, I'll cut him down as well. So I think this was only about 50 seconds. So yeah, that is pushing it. You probably, I push it until the blade starts to slow, and then I ease off a bit. That's why I have the fan running on the motor, just to keep it cool. And this is what I've ended up with after cutting. Lots of little pieces. Well, some of them are quite large actually. But my tumblers are fairly large, and I like to do large pieces. They just sit in your hand better. Now this blade, after cutting all the rocks yesterday and these ones today, has pretty much lost its cutting surface, but this edge here comes in handy. Now I mentioned a respirator mask. So my car is probably 3 or 4 meters from the saw, and with all that water, but it still gets covered in dust, so you don't want to be breathing that in. Respirator mask, absolutely essential. All right, now the rounding process. This is something I do to save, well, at least a couple of weeks in stage 1. I don't know how many other people do it, but it really is worthwhile. So what I'll do is I will just run them against the edge of that blade. And like I said, that blade, no good for cutting anymore, but has lots of nice diamonds on the side, ready to grind away. So you can see there that dirty brown bit on the side of this zebra quartz. I'll grind him off first, like that. Still a bit more there. I'll get rid of him. I'll speed this up for you. Now, from that stage, from there, you just basically treat it like it's in a tumbler and rolling around against other rocks. That's what I do here. Roll it against the side of the blade. That takes probably a minute, maybe a bit longer, maybe a bit shorter, depending on the rock. That's what you end up with. A pre-shaped rock, ready to be tumbled. And this is all of them. all cut and pre-shaped. They look beautiful, don't they? Well, I think they do. Ready to go into the tumbler. All sorts of colours, patterns. A lot of people, well, some people don't like Breccia. One woman bought some rocks for me, but she said, don't include any Breccia. It reminds her of vomit. There's a bit of the picture Jasper. That's more picture Jasper. So you can see it's got all blade marks running through it at the moment. They will get worn down once it's in the tumbler. This is some of the Breccia with the yellow matrix rather than the pink. That's got some nice little licorice all sorts in it, that one. Now this is what I mean about the blade. So this was the blade we've used. This is a brand new one, exact same make, but you can see how much is worn down. So first of all, cutting wears it down, and then rounding off really takes its toll on the blade. So that blade's no good anymore. You can't use that for anything. That will just get chucked out. This one, ready to go. Ready to cut some rocks. Right, time to load the tumbler barrels. Now, the tumbler barrels I'll be using from a homemade machine that I bought. You probably have something like this. This is a Lawtone 3-pound barrel from a 33A, and this is a 6-pound barrel from a QT66 Lawtone. But I have quite a bit more rocks than would fit in those, so I'm going to be using these. These are about 9 or 10-pound barrels. I've never actually figured it out, but I know that these rocks will fit in there. So let's start loading them up. There's no particular order. Just do a handful in one, a handful the other, a handful in one, a handful the other, and keep going until they're full. Now these won't quite fill these barrels, as you can see. When I say fill, right, they need to be about 3/4 full. If you have less or more, they won't tumble properly. So these, what I'm throwing in now, this is all offcuts from the saw from cutting the rocks. They can go in, they will act as meteor to help spread the grit that goes in there. They're still not full enough though, so this is some landscaping rock that I bought. I think it was like $15 for 40 kilos of it, so it's so cheap. But it's quite hard. It's mainly chert, I think. So that goes in there. We're approaching the level we want now, about 3/4. And I've just got a few experimental bits I'm going to throw in as well. Bit of, what is that, lepidolite? A bit of oolite. I haven't tumbled that before. I thought I'll chuck that in. It feels very soft, so I don't expect much to come out. Another piece there. Another piece of lepidolite with quartz. It can go in too. This is the thing about tumbling around rocks. You can experiment as much as you want. A bit of malachite. I'd be surprised if anything survives. The tumblers of malachite. Oh, a bit of brecciated mookaite and another little tiny bit of lepidolite. So now, next stage. Dry your hands. Next stage is to add some grit. Now, stage 1 grit is 80 grit silicon carbide. That's what most people use, and that's what we'll be using today. So like I said, these barrels probably hold about 8 or 9 pounds of rock. So I will put 8 tablespoons of silicon carbide into them for stage 1. Just because they're already rounded. The shapes are there pretty much already, so it doesn't have to do such a big job, the silicon carbide, to get them to where I want. So I'll put 8 into each. Now this here, you got to be careful. You don't want any silicon carbide around the edge of your tumbler, no matter what barrels you're using, because it can upset the seal and you'll end up with a leak. So I toothbrush all those away. Time to add some water. Get him out of the way too. Bit of a cramped workbench this. We're gonna put it, oh, you can get out of here. Okay, good. Now, where were we? Water. Pack him up, put him aside. There's some water here. Doesn't have to be fresh water for stage 1, it doesn't really matter, because the dirtier the water, probably the better it's gonna help you grit. Now, we've filled the rocks up to 3/4 of the barrel. The water needs to come up so that it's just below the level of the top rocks. I'm being a bit pedantic here, but Hey, if I say I'm doing it, I will do it. Fill that one up. I'll fill it up just below the level of the rocks. That looks good. And now the lids go on. Obviously, the low-toned lids are different to these ones. These ones are a bit of a pain, to be honest. Low-toned just have that one screw. But these can be a bit of a task. And because they're homemade, they're not very symmetrical. So I've labelled them. That one notch there lines up with the one notch, and this two notches here lines up with those two notches. Now we'll screw them down. This is probably irrelevant to probably anyone watching this, because you will have low tones. But it's similar in that you put the lid down, you screw it down, nice and tight. These have a washer and a nut. All around, there we go. Just like doing up a wheel nut. Skip one, do one, skip one, do one. Now, they're all good. Now, these, like I say, they're almost, oh, what are they? Heavy. I will give them a bit of a jiggle, and then they'll go over here into the tumbler. This is the homemade tumbler that I bought. Everything's difficult one-handed. So slide him on. Now those little nuts there will catch on that end if I don't turn it around. So I have the nuts in the middle, the locking nuts in the middle, so they don't catch on anything. Just something for me to be aware of. A similar thing with the low tones. The locking nuts need to go to the outside. If you have them on the inside, they will wear away at the bottom of the rubber barrel, if it's a twin barrel, 33A or QT66. Now let's fire this fella up. Go around here. I need a bigger workshop. There we turn him on, it's this one. Switch him on. Yep, he's spinning. That's good. Go around and double check everything looks happy. Yes, he looks happy. Come back in 1 week and empty these barrels out. Here we are a week later. Now this tumbler started to make some funny noises during the week, and this is why. It developed a leak. So there's no rocks there, it's just all slurry. That is the grit and ground up rocks and water. There's no actual large rocks in that. And you can see it's dry. Well, it's not totally dry, but there's no liquid in there where there should be. I'll open up this other one and show you what I mean. Yeah, so not ideal. Some of those I expect in the barrel that leaked will not go into stage 2. They won't be ready. So this is what you'd expect. Liquid like that. Like that. Right, time to tip this out and to rinse them off. Let's see what we've got. It's a messy job. I end up with mud everywhere. So this is what we've got. Let's give these a quick rinse and see how they're looking. So, just some water, run over the rocks, and I think they're looking pretty good. Let's have a look at some of them. What's this? Piece of Breccia, that one. What's that one? Ah, more Breccia. Anything special? A bit weird, that one. Yep, I think the majority of these will go on to stage 2. Here's a bit of that Jasper. That's good. Now we give him a proper rinse. What's that one? He's looking good. So, what I do at this point is I fill up that sieve. They're sitting in a bucket. So I pour enough water in. Well, there's one of those picture Jaspers, isn't that pretty? So I'll pour the water in until it's covering. Oh, that's the lepidolite. He's looking a bit average. Until the water is covering the rocks. as you'll see in a second. There. Because they've still got a lot of mud and slurry on them, so I'll give them a little jiggle. Quite a big jiggle actually. Just so they rub against each other and the friction will hopefully get rid of some of that slurry, that mud off the side of the rocks. Also off the side of the sieve there, just keep everything clean hopefully. Looking good. Just drain them off. Now, a very important thing, that slurry that I just took off those rocks there, do not tip it down your sink, whatever you do. It will block your sink and you'll end up with a huge plumbing bill. So this is the barrel that lost all its liquid. I just filled it up to try and loosen the rocks to get them out. It didn't really help a lot. So I'll put some more water in, get some more loosening up of the rocks. I don't expect a lot of these to be ready for stage 2 because they just didn't get tumbled properly. They just were sticking to the side of the bowl, I think, rather than tumbling against each other and just rolling around, but not tumbling. But let's have a look. Give that a shake. And now a rinse, the same as the other ones. That mud is not rinsing off though. That is really stuck there. Oh, some of these might continue on. What I'll do is I'll set up 2 barrels once I rinse them off and say, right, you're going to stage 1 again, and you guys can continue on to stage 2. We'll see. Alright, so continuing the rinsing. This is a lot more work than it normally would be, as you saw in the first lot. I'm basically just scratching the mud off the side of these rocks. You wouldn't normally have to do that. It's pretty disgusting. And again, I had a good go at getting the mud off, and then we give them a rinse. And again, I can't stress it enough, do not tip the slurry. So what we're washing off the rocks, do not tip that down your sink. What I do is I keep them in these buckets, let them settle for a few days, tip off the water off the top, which leaves you with mud in the bottom. That then dries out and it can get chucked out in the rubbish. So here we are, both barrels ready for rinsing. What I'm going to do is all the ones that go to stage 1 will go in the black bowl. Anything that needs tumbling again will go in the blue bowl. They won't be tumbled in that bowl, I'm just using those bowls because it's handy. Now rinsing. What you want to do is get a toothbrush and rub it against these rocks under running water. So you're looking for any little cracks and crevices that's going to hold grit, because you don't want any grit coming over from stage 1 into stage 2. That sort of defeats the purpose. If you've got stage 1 grit tumbling around in stage 2, you might as well not even be doing stage 2. So yes, what I'm doing is I'm feeling the rocks as I go. Any little cracks I feel, I then attack with the toothbrush, right there. But he can actually go back into stage 1. So here we are, these are all the rocks going to stage 2, and these are the rocks going back into stage 1. Now from this point, it's a bit different to a standard rotary tumbler, because these are vibe tumbler bowls. So what you do is you tip out all the excess water. So the rocks are no longer sitting in water, they've just got a thin coat of water on them. They will now go into the vibe tumbler, onto the vibe tumbler. It's always a bit tricky. Get on there, come on, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, come on, yes. And then lock down the bowl on the vibe tumbler. This is not the original locking nut that come with it. It's a long story, but I ended up stripping that thread a bit and had to use bigger nuts. Sorry, smaller nuts on it. So this is a 10-pound bowl. I don't actually weighed how many rocks I put in. I just put them in there until it sort of doesn't quite come up to the top, and it hasn't failed me yet. Now where's the switch? It's back here somewhere. Switch them on, there we go. Isn't that cool? So this is the vibratory motion rather than tumbling around like a rotary tumbler. There's a lot of advantages to using a vibratory tumbler as well. Starting with much less grip. So that is about 10 pounds of rock in there. And if you were using a rotary, you'd be using 10 tablespoons of grit. Now this grit is 220, I think I showed you a minute ago. 220 silicon carbide. Now because this is a vibe tumbler, it only uses 3 tablespoons of grit, as opposed to 8 if you were using a rotary. And if that's not enough to convince you, if you haven't already got a rotary, a vibe tumbler, these will only go for 2 days. Obviously, if you're rotary, tumbling rocks, they go for another week. So these ones, I'll knock this fellow down here, 2 days in stage 2. Again, that's not the original enough, that's off a law plane. Alright, so we'll see you in 2 days. I always come back half an hour later just to check that everything's working as it should, and it is. Well, what happens is, we've had a heat wave here recently in Perth, and the rocks dry out, as you can see there. They should be a lot wetter than that. So what you do, in most tumblers, most vibratory tumblers, you'll have to do this anyway. But because it was so hot, it dried out really quickly. And I think this was like probably 8 hours after I put them in. It's probably not quite enough water yet, but you don't want to put too much water in. So give it a spray, have a look. Does it need more? Yes, it does, and spray some more. That in the background there, the QT66 has some. What does it have in there? Mookaite. That's going to be nice when it comes out. Right, so you can see they're starting to move a lot freer now. So that's good. And here we are, another half hour later, and it's back to how it should be. So it's worth checking. Now, this is 2 days later. I actually had to moisturize them again, once more in between, as in spray some more water on. But this is now 2 days later. Take this lid off. And well, they're a bit dried out, but that's okay. Now what I do at this stage, I don't know if it's a normal thing, is I put water in there, because they're going to be emptied out in about an hour. So I give them a half hour to an hour, just swimming around in the water, and what that does is it loosens up all the grit or the slurry from the side of the rocks and makes rinsing a lot easier. And it goes back on. We'll give them another hour. Here we are, an hour later. No, you're doing something wrong. What are you doing? You forgot to turn it off, didn't you dirty bugger? You turn it off before you undo the nut. Let me just try and find that switch back there again. It's hidden. Alright, that's off. Now, continue on. Loosen up this nut. And we will be rinsing off these rocks from their stage 2 slurry. I should have sped this up. Now, I mentioned earlier this video is a lot more comprehensive to what I'd normally do. Just because I was getting a few questions, like particularly this bit here, like, oh, it just show me emptying the barrel with it'll be full of water, and people go, well, where'd that water come from? Well, I thought I'd better show a more in-depth analysis of what happens. Right, so same as before, give them a rinse. It's always exciting seeing what we've got. Now this is probably about 2/3 of what went into both those barrels. The other one's going to get back into stage 1. These are all looking good. That zebra quartz is looking very nice. I'm actually going to be doing a whole batch of that in a few weeks. That's nice, isn't it? Yes, so then the bowl needs a good rinse. Again, you don't want any stage 2 grit coming into stage 3. So there is mud all over this bowl, and they can be a little tricky to clean. No more tricky than a rotary, I guess. So what I do is I just run all the way around with a bit of water, rubbing off all of that grit and grime and slurry, and then use that to wash the rocks. So that will get a better rinse under the tap. The bowl will. And here we go. A good rinse before they're rinsed and toothbrushed again, as you'll see in a minute. So yeah, this is, I think this is the way to do it. It works for me. Fill up the water above the rocks and then give it a jiggle. It just uses the action of the rocks against themselves to rub off any of the slurry, the grit. Right, here we are again, rinsing off the rocks under running water. Now, the lid can be an issue as well. The same as the bowl, you don't want any stage 2 grit coming over to stage 3, and the lid can actually hold grit if you're not careful. So, that gets a good scrub. Make sure that there's no grit coming across. Now, the bowl will get a better scrub now. Now, you might look at that and say, well, hang on, isn't that slurry going down the sink? Well, no, not really. This is just, it's just like muddy water, but like when your mum used to wash your footy jumper after a particularly muddy game. It's not slurry going down the sink here, it's just dirty water. So yeah, what I do is I give it a good scour with this scour pad. Make sure that there's no slurry, mud, whatever coming across. So he's good, nice and clean. Fill in with water, because you know when your rock's drying out in between stages. So what I do is, as I rinse the rocks, they'll go into that bowl full of water and won't be able to dry out. So you can see there that it's just basically dirty water. It's not a thick slurry. I've been doing this for a few years in this sink and haven't had an issue yet. Fingers crossed. So yes, a good rinse. You can see there, it's not thick, it's just dirty water. And these are ready to get toothbrushed. So what I do here is as I drain it, again because I'm a little bit concerned that maybe it might start blocking the drain, is I give it a swirl like that. Start up a little whirlpool action. Hopefully that helps clear any debris that might end up down there. All good. Right, now plug goes back in. I turn the tap on to just a dribble and start toothbrushing the rocks, same as before. Feeling for any little cracks and crevices that might hold onto some grit. Just there's one. He's good. Another one. Yep, he's good. That was that zebra quartz, I think. All good. Now, as before, we tip off all the excess water. So that water was there just so the rocks didn't dry out. Tip off the excess water and we're going to be ready for stage 3 in the Vibe Tumbler. So stage 3 is a 600 grit silicon carbide. Always mesmerises me that when I fire up. This is at 600 grit silicon carbide, and again, just the 3 tablespoons. Well, they're quite big tablespoons. Instead of what would be 8 in a rotary tumbler. If you don't have a vibratory tumbler yet, consider it. It saves time, it saves money because you're not having to use so much grit. It also is less fussy about what rocks you put in it. So with a rotary tumbler, if you don't have the hardnesses the same, the most hardness the same, they can work against each other and one can destroy the other. Whereas in the Vibe, it's a lot sort of gentler action. So you can mix hardnesses to an extent, and they come out nice. So yes, that's a Vibe tumbler. I highly recommend it if you don't already have one. So, lid goes down, and the checks will go on. I'll see you in 2 days. This was the next day. It's still hot here. Everything's drying out, so I give them a squirt. Oh, you actually see the nuke light next door now. That's moved on to stage 2 in that green vibe, the blue vibe there. So yes, are they happy? I think so. Here we are, this is 2 days now. They get their rinse, their little swim together. And again, this is just so that it makes rinsing them off easier. They rub against each other in there and rub the mud off very slowly. Now, turn him off and undo the lid and tip it out. Again, I'm doing this one-handed. It's quite awkward. So, same as before. Tip them all out. Give them a quick rinse. And see how we're looking, see how we're progressing. Pretty good, I think. It's always exciting to see how the rocks are coming along. That's beautiful, that one. Zebra quartz. What else? Oh, look at that. Oh, nice pieces there. This one here with the yellowy sort of matrix rather than the pink from the other one. Looks delicious. And a bit of that yellowy Jasper stuff. And some of the white stuff, the white Breccia. Looks a bit plain. But hey, it'll be okay. Once again, into the laundry and scrub the lid. You know what, 3 coming into 4. It's always something you must do. Scrub the bowl, scrub the lid, scrub the rocks, so that no remnants of the previous stage are coming into the next. So, he's good. The bowl's next. And again, that water looks a little muddy, but it's fine. So I use a scouring pad and just run around the edge, taking up all the bits of slurry that might have stuck there. It always works fine, I haven't had a problem yet. He's good. Fill the bowl so that the rocks don't dry out, waiting for stage 4. Alright, put him aside and give these guys a wiggle. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Same as, everything's the same as before. I don't even know why I'm showing it. Well, yes, I do. Some people would say, well, I didn't know what you did between stage 3 and 4. Well, this is what I'm doing. That's why I'm showing it. Again, start a little whirlpool action there. Get the water draining. Get the tap just dribbling. Otherwise, you could have it running faster, but no point wasting water. Again, looking for any little cracks or holes that might be holding grit. Carrying it over into stage 4, you don't want that. Most of these are really nice and smooth, so not an issue. Now this is all the little filler bits that I've used, so the landscaping rock and the offcuts from the saw and stuff. I don't want to go scrubbing each of them with a toothbrush, so I'll just give them a bit of a rinse around in the bottom of the bowl. Again, tip off any excess water before heading into stage 4, which is the final polish. And this is it here. Now, at this point, I would normally use 1 micron aluminium oxide, but I don't have any. Well, I've got some, but not enough. So I'm going to be using this here, tin oxide. That's 2 microns, so in theory, it should give us a better polish. As that one-handed lid opening. So again, 3 tablespoons for this batch in the Vibe tumbler. Same as before. That's 1 and 2. There's a big 2. Sometimes I think less might be more. I've experimented in the past so that instead of doing say 3 tablespoons I'll only do 2, or that's more like 4 all up here. We'll see what happens. Yes, I experimented with 2 tablespoons and they came out really nice. So I will have to experiment a bit again, I think. No point using 3 or 4 when I can get by with 2. It's not cheap, that tin oxide. Lid goes on, washer goes on, and nut goes down. And then we'll go for another 2 days in final polish. Yep, see you in 2. Now, I've already added the water, same as before, so they went swimming for an hour. I've turned off tumbler and time to rinse them off. It's not quite as bad as stage 2 and 3 in that it's not muddy like them, and it washes off a lot easier. How are we looking? Really good. Yep, nice. Not as nice as the mookaite I've got going in the upper barrel. That'll be ready in about a week. It's looking really good. But this is looking good too. Look at that. Picture Jasper. That one there. Nice black chunks. And some zero quartz. Alright, let's wash that lid again. Yeah, I'll speed this one up. You've seen it before. He's good. And then the bowl as well. I'll speed this up too. It is important though to make sure that you're getting all the polish, grit, whatever out, because we're not quite finished yet, as you'll see in a minute. So fill in with water, again because you don't want the rocks drying out just yet. Give these guys a rinse. I'm sure they enjoy it. Alright, now just a dribble under the tap and a toothbrush and in they go. So they're pretty glossy as they are. Once they dry they would be glossy. But there's a few more stages that I like to do, and you'll see them in a minute. Look at that, that one has actually developed a crack. And grit is stuck in there, or polish is stuck in there. It's weird. That happens sometimes in the final polish. I don't know why. Maybe because it's a finer grit that it gets into places it didn't before and creates cracks. I don't know. So, here we are. Now, see, the bowl is full of water. I didn't rinse them off. I didn't empty it because I'm giving him a borax bath. So this is called a burnishing stage. A lot of people use, what is it? Some sort of soap that you get in America. We don't get it here. But we do have access to borax, which does just as good a job. So I'll put in a tablespoon or two of borax. And what that does, you can see the water's pretty clear at this point. But after a few hours of soaking in borax, well, I'll show you in a minute. This is it. So all that white is polish that's come off the rocks out of cracks and crevices. And now, my favourite part. So I gave him a quick rinse. I'm about to give him an ultrasonic clean. An ultrasonic cleaner, again, I think is a must for any rock tumbler. They're not expensive. I think that small one was $60. The big one I got for $5 at Cash Converters. So you put your rocks in. Obviously there's water in there. And that whole 8-10 pounds of rocks I can do in the ultrasonic cleaners in 3 passes, 3 stages. Right, now the fun bit. I'm going to start this up and just watch what happens. How's that? That's stuff that the borax didn't get rid of, so this is really deep within the rocks. This polish that's coming out in clouds. Start this fella up. Same again. Now I have them run for 2 minutes, but really, a minute's probably long enough. You can see here it's already getting very cloudy. What I'll do is I'll give them a little shake, just to expose different surfaces maybe to the ultrasonic waves. And yeah, so they go for 2 minutes. And here we are, 2 minutes almost up. That's him. So, look like fish and chips, doesn't it? I empty them out onto a towel, put them back in. So that water, it's probably good for about 3 or 4 goes before it gets too dirty. Then you want to use fresh water. So yes, empty out the rocks. Let them dry. What I do is once I fill up the ultrasonics again is I usually towel dry them because I get so excited to see how they're going to look. And how do they look? This is how they look. This is what we've ended up with. This is all of them from, well, like I say, probably about 2/3 of that first batch. The other ones are still in the tumbler. And you'll get a better view of what they look like here. So these are some of my favourites. Out of all those rocks, I picked out probably a couple of dozen favourites, just to show you in more detail. This is a standard Breccia with the pink background. That one before was with the yellow. Very happy with how they turned out. Nice and glossy. This is the zebra quartz. They all played very well together, these rocks. Again, that's something the Vibe Tumbler does. It doesn't care so much about the different hardnesses, and you end up with a better job. That's that picture Jasper. Boy, there's some detail in that. Really nice. Again, the one with the yellowy sort of matrix. That's weird, isn't it? I like it. Everything's got a yellow outline. This is the standard pink stuff. This is from Payne's Find. Got some beautiful big chunks in there. Very nice. Another bit of zebra quartz. And then a bit of that banded jasper with the quartz vein running through it. Again, happy with how that turned out. This has some nice big black chunks in it, that one, I like that. So this is from Mika Thara. Very different to the Payne's Find. Breccia, which is what this one is. They're both beautiful, just different. And another piece of zebra quartz. I mentioned earlier that in a few weeks I'll be doing a whole batch of zebra quartz. I've got heaps of it to do. That's exciting. And another piece of that picture Jasper. Look at the detail in that. What is it a picture of? I don't know, but it's detailed. Beautiful. Some more of the yellow matrix Breccia. Beautiful big chunk of, what is that, Jasper, banded Jasper in there. Some more of the paints fine stuff. That swirly bit there. They're all nice. More zebra quartz. So I ended up with 4 bits of zebra quartz. It was just a bit of an experiment to see how it would turn out before I do this complete batch. This was one of those yellow bits that had the pyramid shape in it. That's come out really nice. Very happy with that. More yellow matrix. Beautiful little piece. And some more of the pinkish matrix. It's so nice to hold these little pieces of rock. I guess anyone that's tumbled rocks knows what I mean. It just gives you a good feeling to hold them because they're so smooth and glossy. Taking images of them close up like this, you can see all sorts of flaws, but in real life, you don't notice that. This is, it's just that it's close up, you can see everything. Look at that. Very nice, very nice. Again, I've got a whole batch of that I'm going to be doing at some point in the near future as well. And more yellow matrix. And then one last piece before I say goodbye of Paints Find Breccia. So that's it. If you've made it this far, well done. What is it, almost an hour long, I think. Right, that's it. If you know anyone else that might be interested, maybe suggest they have a look at my channel. And if you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so. Till next time, see ya.